All right, before we go to the calls, we promised this from Steve Kerr. Sister Agnes said, remember when Steve Kerr, after the game, was talking about wallflowers? Here is that comment.
In order to win in the NBA, obviously you have to have talent, but you have to have energy. You have to bring something to the table life-wise, like joy-wise, energy-wise, competitiveness-wise. And that's what I watched tonight, from the whole group. Clearly, Brandin has that. That's pretty obvious. And our fans have watched this team win 4 championships. They weren't won by, a bunch of pouters and wallflowers. They were won by gamers, competitors, guys who brought energy and joy and passion to everything. And that's what it takes. So that's what I'm looking for.
Woo! Huh.
Pouters and wallflowers.
Not just wallflowers.
Pouters.
Pouters and wallflowers. Quote, that's what I'm looking for.
Would you consider a wallflower a player who played 16 minutes and went 2 of 3 from the floor, had 2 rebounds, an assist, 2 fouls, no blocks, and he was a -1.
He looked like a wallflower to me.
And when he wasn't playing, did he look a little sad?
I know he was a powder in the playoffs. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So for those of you just joining us, we are talking about Jonathan Kuminga.
Correct.
But that is a very, very interesting clip with the way he ended that, because he started it out saying, that's what you saw tonight. You saw great effort. Joy. And then he tossed out Brandin Podziemski. He specifically called his name out. But then as he goes on, he says, that's what I'm looking for. As in, we're still in the audition stage, and I'm looking for people who aren't powders and wallflowers, which I don't think you say unless you feel like you are being exposed to that a little bit. In other words, are there people on the roster right now who you think are that? Would have been a great follow-up question. I don't think it got asked.
It was the last question in the press conference.
Yeah, I mean, I could say we'll ask it on Friday, but he'll be ready for it. You know what I mean? Like,
who you talking about, Steve?
Yeah. So, Steve, I got a question for you.
Seriously. Jonathan Kowalflower?
Steve, did we lose you?
Steve,
did we lose you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm here.
No, I'm right here.
Jonathan Kapowder and Andrew Wallflower?
No, he'll be ready for it, though, because they know, like the media cycle, he's going to be ready for that in a way where he's not going to throw players under the bus. So, but that is very, very interesting.
Yes.
I heard it last night. I don't know that I heard it quite as in depth as I heard it this time. Do you want to hear this again? Listen to this again from Steve Kerr.
In order to win in the NBA, obviously you have to have talent, but you have to have energy. You have to bring something to the table life-wise, like joy-wise, energy-wise, competitiveness-wise. And that's what I watched tonight, from the whole group. Clearly, Brandin has that. That's pretty obvious. And our fans have watched this team win 4 championships. They weren't won by, a bunch of powders and wallflowers. They were won by gamers, competitors, guys who brought energy and joy and passion to everything. And that's what it takes. So that's what I'm looking for.
That's what it takes.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's what I'm looking for.
I wonder if powders wasn't one guy and wallflowers was maybe indicating another. Because I look at Andrew Wiggins and, Mark Grandy, our technical director, pointed out on Twitter that he actually played with a little bit more force. And, we've all spent time today applauding him for actually trying.
He tried, Dibs.
Which is hilarious. But
he's a trier.
4 of 15, 7 rebounds, 1 of 7 from 3. He did exert a little bit more effort. He was less of a wallflower last night than he has been.
Yeah, but still not effective enough.
Right, 27 and a half minutes.
Yep.
And again, in a game where you don't have Steph, Clay, or Draymond, that would be a game where you would look for Wiggins to play 38 minutes and go for 28 points. But he had 9 points, Mark. He plays good defense. And a lot of times he defends against the other team's best player. And when you're on the Warriors and you're Andrew Wiggins, you're going to have to guard, especially against Minnesota, you're guarding a 7-footer. pretty much no matter what.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. I apologize. I cannot see anymore who had this idea on YouTube. AirPods is probably the nickname we should go with, but we'll see if he likes it. And it's not like he's a dunker, but I bet he well, we'll see. We'll see. That's that caught my eye. That was funny. Let's go to Jeff in San Francisco. Hey, Jeff, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up?
Hey, I'm just calling on Kuminga. I don't disagree. It's super disappointing to see the energy, I think, last night. I don't think the season's been all bad. He's been getting to the line. He's been doing some things. He's still young. The bottom line for me, though, is if he or Wiggins aren't hitting by January, no matter how great of a pop Podziemski is, and last night was awesome to see that player explode. He's just a great, great guard. But without the size and athleticism, this team has no chance at a championship. So they got to make a move in January. That's how I see it. So, So Kuminga's got to get going. Wiggins has to get going, or they need to make a trade.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks. I totally get the thought process right now behind that. For me, I'm not there yet. Like there's 70 games to go. And I just want to caution everybody against the idea of thinking that the Warriors we've seen for the last 4 games are just the Warriors. That's it. That's the Warriors. Got to make a move. Because when they were 5-1 and 6-2, even 6-3 after the loss in Denver, we didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like a fait accompli. It didn't feel like, gosh, they're really missing something. And they won all of those games without a second scorer scoring 20 points. I still believe we're early enough in a season where Klay Thompson can show a different pitch. Andrew Wiggins maybe too. Like, I'm not saying they will, but for me, it's too early to simply go, they definitely have to make a large move. And even if you do get to that opinion, I don't know what's out there.
There's nothing out there
that's going to do it. Like without giving up your financial flexibility, which they won't do.
And whatever big man you want to acquire, good quality big men are not usually traded at the deadline. And you had a big man in James Wiseman, and you traded him at the deadline, and now he's a third stringer in Detroit. And the big men that you would want to acquire are players who either make way too much money for you to acquire them, or they're too good for that team to give up on them. So I understand the age-old question about the Warriors needing a big man. And when you play Minnesota in back-to-back games, and they've got 3 7-footers, including one who can step out and shoot the 3, and Naz Reid, who didn't even factor that much into the game last night.
No, Dario was using him.
Right, and Rudy Gobert, who is kind of a one-way player, a defensive stopper at the rim, they're going to be a problem. And when you play the Lakers and Anthony Davis, they're a problem. And you look around the West, there are a lot of big men who are going to pose a problem, but there's no one out there you're going to be able to acquire. So you're going to have to beat these teams with your small lineup, and the only way you're going to do that is if you make shots. And if you have a small team, which they do, and you rely on making shots, and you don't make shots,
it's going to be a bad team.
You're done.
Yeah.
And that's just the way this goes.
There's a piece of me that's slightly encouraged by this. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think they can shoot this poorly all year. I really don't think they will. If they do, you're right. They're not going to be a very good basketball team.
Yeah.
But when you look at this number of people, from Klay to Andrew to even Jonathan and Chris Paul shooting at this clip from 3-point range, I got to think that that's going to get better. And if it does, then the Warriors will get better. Steve in the city. Hey, Steve, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
You're saying exactly what I'm thinking. And that is, the game before this one, all right, the guys they were getting open looks and missing the shots, and that's why Podziemski, AirPods, is getting the play time and the credit that Kerr has given him is because he made the shots, and that's why Kuminga sat on the bench last night for a lot of that time, is because they don't want to take the risk of someone having an open shot that they work hard to get, and then they can't make it. And so I don't know if Kuminga needs to spend more time in the gym. He needs to show Kerr and the coaching staff that he's hitting shots. But that's part of the reason I think he's sitting on the bench.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I agree with you, Steve, but there's something that caught my ear yesterday. Steve Kerr was talking about Podziemski in minutes before the game.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm like, wait a minute here, because at that point, you didn't know Draymond and Klay were going to miss the game. You didn't know that then. All you knew was that Steph was going to miss the game. And you didn't just talk about the minutes he was going to get. You talked about how good of a player he was, how cocky he was, and how much you loved it. That was all happening before the game. Then they lose a couple people, and the guy ends up running more minutes than any Warrior has played in any game so far this year. And Kuminga, with an absent Draymond and Klay, and you didn't know that was coming, still didn't get much run.
Yeah. And
so I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how you look at that and don't start to feel uneasy.
Well, he's sending messages.
Yeah, about where Jonathan is.
No doubt.
And that's I'm not even taking the whole pouters and wallflowers.
Exactly.
I'm not going to firmly state that that's pointed at Jonathan. It might be.
Well, it's not up to us to determine where it's firmly pointed. All we can do is look at the evidence, which is last year, Jonathan Kuminga's minutes got quickly eroded and he became a DNP in the most important games in the playoffs. And all the talk in the offseason was about how great he looked and all the videos and all the work. He's in the lab and all this. And he's come out and he's largely been the same player that he was last year, which is a little bit inconsistent and a guy who offensively still has a long way to go to be an effective player. You mentioned the shooting. Last year, they were number 2 in the association from three-point range. They shot 38.5, second only to Philadelphia. They shot the most threes in the league 43 times a night. This year, they are 21st in three-point field goals, 34.8. Mm-hmm. So from 38.5 to 34.8. They're averaging 6 points a game fewer than last year, and they are shooting 4 fewer threes a game than they did last year.
Well, and there's a part of that is pace. They're having just fewer total shots.
But they have more possessions because they're not turning it over as much.
And if people are thinking that's because Poole's gone, like he had a poor percentage last year, so it's not him. And Dario has shown up and shot a good percentage, and Draymond's percentage from 3 has been up, and Steph's has been flat at minimum. So it just goes to show how far down basically Klay and Wiggins, and to a degree, fewer shots, Chris Paul and Kuminga are. And it can't last. By the way, I mean that 2 ways. They're either going to start making them or they're going to stop taking them. That's got to be the mantra. You can start making them or stop taking them. And if you can't take them, you probably can't be on the floor very much. Yeah.
Chris Paul up to 20%. So he's trending in the right direction.
It's a big 3.
He did hit a big one last night on the little give and go, the little relocation.
It's like a fall away, too.
Yeah.
It's a pretty 3.
And that tied the game. And so CP3, I think, is going to get closer to his career average. But Kuminga, 17.4. Wiggins, 15.2% from 3.
Jeez.
15.2.
Let's hear from Terrence and Vallejo real quick. Hey, Terrence, what's going on? Yo, Willie and Dibby.
Hey, nothing much. Just doing a little shopping. And I want to say this for Kuminga, man. I feel like he caught a little Jordan Poole fever, shooting the ball, copping attitude when he's shooting the ball. There ain't no baddies in the crowd. I just think, I think Moody deserves his minutes because when he's in the game, he's producing. He's doing what Kuminga's not doing. He's going out to lose balls. He's going for the rebounds. He's doing the miscellaneous stuff that he's not doing, that we seen Kuminga do when he first got on the Warriors team, with pure out hustle. Moody's really out hustling him when he getting his time. Moody's shooting over 50% every time he's in a game. And speaking on defense, he has 15 steals. Kuminga only have 4 or 5 steals so far. How many games are we in already?
Yeah, Terrence, I'm with you, and I realize that it's the thing that sort of busts the other thing that I've been saying, which is that when a young player's not playing, the organization is telling you what they see. The outlier for me is Moses Moody, and that is a question I can promise you I will ask Steve Kerr Friday. Why is he not playing more?
Yeah.
Because what I see, I'm a layperson, but what I see, it looks to me like more is deserved. And so I am curious as to why he not getting more run. We'll see what happens tomorrow night.
17 minutes a game, and you got GP2 at 18, Kuminga's at 20, Saric is at 21. So I do think that they're still kind of searching for what the rotation will be. And one thing I'll ask Steve Kerr on Friday is, what do you want to see from Jonathan Kuminga that he's not giving you? Because, we see Kuminga, thank you. We see flashes of Kuminga defensively, offensively, but it seems like he is slowly falling out of favor already.
I want you to ask it this way. Hey, Steve, is Jonathan a powder or a wallflower?
Steve, did we lose you?
Exactly.